future.
There are no people.
There are no people in the future.
No people at all.
There are no people in the future.
Where did all my people go?
There are no people in the future.
Let me try my people call. Where are all my people? Where are all my people? I guess I'll fly away now.
It is Friday, May 7th, 2021. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. Each week, I talk to vaccinated shitposter Sean Kitchen about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. Yes, we are streaming live on our YouTube channel, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button, like this stream, and hit the bell so that you know every time we go live. And, whoop, surprise, what's this? That's right, you can also join our Discord for live chat during the show and to continue the conversation after we sign off. Just that link to join is right in the show description on our YouTube page. We'll be kind of pushing that out a little more, but we're just kind of, let's call it a soft launch. We'll call it a soft launch of our Discord channel today. Very, very cool. Welcome, welcome. On today's show, President Biden made an unvarnished case for taxing the rich on Wednesday, although he did it in a very sleepy way. It was very interesting. Anyways, facing reporters steeped in decades of anti-tax dogma, Biden said, we're not going to deprive, it was more like this, it was like, we're not going to deprive any of these executives of their second or third home. I'm going. We're not going to deprive any of these executives their second or third home, travel privately by jet. It's not going to affect their standard of living, not at all. Not a little tiny bit. But I can affect the standard of living of people I grew up with. It's pretty wild. If you watch that speech, you like, if it was Bernie telling this, like the room would have been on fire. This is kind of interesting. In another surprise move, Biden came out in favor of suspending patents for vaccine makers in order to make the vaccine more readily available throughout the world. However, Germany is pushing back against the waivers, which will lead to a global showdown over access to the life-saving shots. And this is coming just in time as India's COVID cases continue to climb. Now they've surpassed 412,000 cases in one day, and only about 2% of Indians have been vaccinated, and hospitals continue to face oxygen shortages. The Modi government now continues to face charges of fumbling the whole rollout of the response or even actively worsening conditions by holding on to oxygen. And more than 25 people are dead in Colombia after more than a week of protest over a tax plan put forward to cover the costs of responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. Colombia has also been hit by mass unemployment due to the lockdowns. And this was just actually right before we went on the show today, too, as well. Also about kind of 25 plus people were killed in Brazil overnight as police raided one of the favelas under the auspices of kind of like, the drug war. But it looked more like, all out, assault on poor people. Anyways, right-wing Republican Liz Cheney is on the verge of losing her House leadership position because she won't toe the party line. What's that party line, you ask? Yeah, that Trump actually won the election and that Hillary Clinton just got hung down in Guantanamo. I mean, we just spelled it all out. Anyways, did you hear that story? We're going to get into that story. I didn't put it in the show notes, but we definitely got to talk about that story. Anyways, but New York's morphing power Trumpista, Elise Stefanik, looks like she may take over Cheney's leadership position. That story I was talking about basically was in this kind of right-wing news site that said that this past week, Hillary Clinton was actually hung for her crimes in Guantanamo Bay after a week-long trial. This is something that is actually circulating in right-wing circles, and I shared the story with Sean. It's pretty freaking amazing that this kind of fiction is passing us here, and but that's what we have. Anyways, Texas Republicans passed more voter suppression legislation this week. Well, good thing the Texas GOP-dominated Senate passed legislation the day before, allowing concealed carry without a permit. And a Trump-appointed federal judge, Dabney Friedrich, struck down the CDC's eviction moratorium on Wednesday, spreading that much more concern among tenants hit hard by the pandemic. And Irish Republicans remembered IRA's Bobby Sands this week on the 40th anniversary of his death in the Maze prison in Northern Ireland. He was 27 when he died. Sand's death and the H-Block hunger strike is recognized as a crucial turning point in the Irish struggle, drawing widespread attention and support worldwide. And, you know, I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Stu's amazing book on the hunger strikes. It's called Smashing H-Block, the popular campaign against criminalization and the Irish hunger strikes of 1976 to 1982. That's from Liverpool University Press. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. And one of Pennsylvania's own tweeted something out about that, huh, Sean?
Yep, Kevin Boyle.
There you go. I'm a Boyle on my grandmother's side, just saying. Ski patrollers at Breckenridge Resort in Colorado voted to unionize with Communication Workers of America. And Breckenridge Resort is part of Vail Resorts, which has seen a string of union drives over the past few years as patrollers point to declining wages and working conditions. And Trump launched a new blog. And birth rates fell to a 42-year low in the U.S. due largely to the pandemic and, you know, that social distancing. However, if you follow calls for a hot vax summer on social media, we just might see a boom in the little ones by next spring. Crazy. A little closer to home in PA focus, Governor Wolf fired every member of the Charter Appeals Board as it was about time. About time you realized that existed. It's great. Way to go. He sent nominations to the Pennsylvania Senate. One of those nominees, you might like this, everybody. One of those nominees includes former state Senate candidate and music teacher Shanna Danielson, everybody. Shanna Danielson. Shanna rocks the house, as you know. Also, one of the sisters from the Sisters of the Night Caucus podcast. So I just have to say that. Pretty awesome. The Charter Appeals Board was filled with holdovers with expired terms from the Corbett administration. And Governor Wolf decided that, you know, maybe before I leave office, I ought to get around to replacing them. And the race for Philadelphia District Attorney is getting underway, and Philly politics is showing everyone what they got. Late last week, the Philadelphia FOP was handing out Mr. Softy ice cream cones in front of Larry Krasner's offices. In response to this stunt, Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry's put Mr. Softy on blast. In a press release, Mr. Cohen stated, quote, "The FOP is out of control, regularly lashing out at anyone who threatens their unquestioned power. To be clear, Mr. Softy isn't even ice cream. It's pumped up with a lot of hot air, which is somehow frozen in a limp sort of way. It is chock full of artificial ingredients. In short, it's fake ice cream. Just like the lies that the FOP has been telling about courageous fighters for true justice and one of the best DAs in the U.S. Larry Krasner, of course." Great. Then following Wednesday's debate, Krasner's opponent, Carlos Vega, tried taunting Krasner once the debate was finished. The taunting was caught on a hot mic, and Vega said, "I'm your worst nightmare. And I've been in your head for so long time." Krasner responded by saying, "Sure, Carlos. Sure, Carlos." It's like totally like a Rocky thing going on here. Like, oh, God. Vega claims to be living rent-free in Krasner's head. But Vega filed a bullshit lawsuit trying to sue Krasner and his supporters from social media because of mean tweets. That's right. Crazy. This has been a really interesting week, I'll tell you. Will Bunch wrote a scathing column this week about the moves to dismantle the PA state system of higher education. And he basically says, yeah, look, these folks are actively turning the American dream into a nightmare. And he lays the bulk of the blame at the feet of the GOP legislators who have been beating the drum for austerity since the 1980s. Oh, and by the way, shout out and thanks to Representative Russ Diamond. Yes, Russ. Thank you, Russ. You suck, Russ. You suck. Russ decided to troll us after our Monday show, and as a result, we've got a bunch of new listeners. They're like, thanks, Russ. Thanks for turning me on to this podcast. So, Russ Diamond, if you're listening, you suck, and you're welcome to troll us anytime you want, you suck. And today's last call, an 18-ton Chinese rocket segment is set to come crashing down to Earth, most likely this weekend, and no one knows exactly where it will land. You see, normally a piece of equipment that large would re-enter the atmosphere in a controlled descent. Not the case here, and this is the second time this has happened with one of these big Chinese rockets. And after delivering the first module of China's first space station to orbit, the booster started to fall back to the Earth in an uncontrolled descent. So, as they say, heads up this weekend. Now look, the chances are Earth is covered 70% of water, so you got a 70% chance it's going to hit water. right? But you got a 30% chance that's going to hit land. And if you look at the where it might fall, it's like from like 41 degrees north to 41 degrees south latitudes and all the way around the planet. So who the hell knows where it's going to come down? So definitely heads up. And SpaceX finally sticks a Starship landing. The SN-15 Starship rocket made a successful high-altitude test on Wednesday, this time without the explosive landing. If you remember, SpaceX is the one who got the contract to be the main lunar vehicle for its Artemis missions. And Pennsylvania House is taking up a critical question that's on everybody's post-pandemic mind. Will we still be able to get our cocktails to go? Yes, crack reporting here. Well, we've got an answer, at least part of an answer. On Tuesday, the PA House Liquor Control Committee voted 23-0 to approve Republican Representative Kurt Masser's legislation to make drinks to go a permanent part of living the PA life. Yes, and Free Will's got a bunch of releases coming out this weekend. We've got Spruce, we've got Tentacle, and we've got Safe Word. We'll be letting you know about that in today's last call. And Sean is turning to wine for the next chapter of his lifestyle channel, and we'll check in with him and how that's going. And remind you to tune in to the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org and or tune in on the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And make sure to subscribe to the Rick Smith Show's daily podcast on iTunes, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast. And you know what I'm going to say now. You must check out the newly launched Sisters of the Night Caucus podcast. Yes, now with a nominee to the the Charter Appeals Board as part of it. Yeah. You can find it on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcast. The first episode was phenomenal. Second episode, whoop, whoop, Katie Muth, just gets better and better and better. The amazing women stirring the cauldron behind this podcast rock the house, and they know where the bodies are buried. Spooky, right? Make sure to follow them on Twitter at The Night Caucus and subscribe to their podcast, everybody. And head on over to their Patreon page, too, as well. Become a patron. Why don't you? For all the gamers out there, check out the Game Inn for all your gaming needs. Game Inn is a Quakertown-based, black family-owned gaming store. They're friends of the show and friends of the family, really. My son's one of my son's best friends is part of their family. It's great. It's their parents who run the show. They've got retro N64s, Nintendo DSs, PS4s, and Switches, the old stuff, the new stuff, and everything in between. Video games for all platforms, large collection of collectibles, action figures, Funko Pops. Kids get discounts with every A on the report card. I mean, come on, check them out on their Facebook page at The Game Inn. Look them on the Twitter at The Game Inn. That's with 2 N's. Got a question about a game, look for something hard to get, message them on Facebook, drop them an email at thegameinpa@gmail.com. Right? Check them out online at thegamein.com. And this Monday is Out to Coop Live. We're going to have a little bit of a kind of an open phones kind of thing going on. We're trying out a new platform, right, to do some streaming and some of the additional interviews that we're going to be rolling out. On Out to Coop Live this Monday, I'm going to have a little announcement about a new segment, a new program that we're going to be bringing to you as part of the kind of Out to Coop family of podcasts. I'm really, really excited about. We'll talk a little bit about that on Monday. We're trying out this new platform. It's called Riverside FM. I'll talk a little about this in today's fun half too as well. It's going to allow for audience participation. I think it's going to be a little bit more easy access for the live show. And we'll see where we'll go from there. So join us on Out to Coop Live on Monday. I'll have more information be pushed out to all our platforms about some of the things we're going to be talking about. I've got a bunch of stuff to dig into. And in the membership corner, ding, 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 ding. It's been a big week. Thank you to all our new members. Thank you, Jillian. Jillian became a patron at the $10 a month level. Thank you to Ross. Ross became the patron at the $5 a month level. And Steve, thank you, Steve, became a patron at the $5 a month level. Thank you all for becoming patrons. Look, if we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. Support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today by becoming a patron of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month like Jillian, Ross, and Steve, or hit that $10 a month level like Jillian. Phenomenal, right? And all this now comes now with exclusive access to as well to our members-only Discord chat too as well, in addition to our regular Discord channel, but we'll talk more about that. Anyways, all you got to do is go to patreon.com/rcpress. Look, we got rid of Trump. Now the hard work of building a progressive future begins. We're here for the fight, and we need you. Become a patron for a good price of a good beer once a month. Help keep the media in the movement the media. Become a patron for as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. Sean, man, how the heck are you?
Doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. Woke up nice and early this morning. Was out and about already and feeling great. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm in my this is grading week. So
I could tell.
I'm a little punchy. It's been I was up late last night getting another full class graded this week. I'm ahead of the game compared to usual most semesters, in part because I just want to get this freaking COVID behind, the academic year behind me. But so yeah, it's that. So other than that kind of the craziness of actually, the end of the semester, um, here we are.
Yeah, I had a fun week. I was out shooting on Monday for SEIU Healthcare PA and Nurses
You were
of
shooting.
PA.
Who?
Photographing. I was photographing a vigil that they held for all the people who've died of COVID over the past year. And, they were lobbying for safe nursing ratios in hospitals, safe staffing ratios, which is something that hospitals like UPMC and other for-profits or nonprofits don't want in the state. So, because why pay your workers more? When you could burn out the nurses. Yeah, no, and it was really nice getting out with my camera again, and then being able to. I got a ton of great photos that I sent over, so got some of them on my Instagram account.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it was a good day.
Well, it's nice to have. I got a little bit worried a minute, like in midweek when it was the weather was just start. We got that like one day that was crazy humid and hot, and I'm like, oh man, let's not do this. Let's not do this yet. So it was kind of nice to have this, the little break and little like full spring days too as well. Not too hot, beautiful days to be able to get out. So
I was contemplating about putting my AC unit in because now I'm on the second and third floors of my apartment building, and my bed's on the third floor, and I was like really came close to like putting my AC unit in it, but the fan works, so I was able to hold out a little bit longer.
There you go. So Sean, I'm curious, like I don't know. Did you check out? Did you see Biden's whole press conference when he went after like the rich folks when I advocated for taxing the rich?
No, I did not see that.
It was I gotta say, it was like so here's let me just read these two quotes, right? So one, these reporters were kind of hammering him with Republican talking points, like the mainstream kind of White House press corps generally does. They're like, well, how are you gonna, how are you gonna pay for it? And don't you think the Republicans are gonna resist? Or what do corporate America say about this? And like, do you think this is gonna cause a problem in the economy? All this kind of stuff, right? About taxes and blah blah blah. And he basically says, he repeated a line which we've heard from him before already now, which was that trickle down economics doesn't work. It never has. It never will. It doesn't help. All it does is give money. He gave the statistics about how much money like these billionaires, the top 1/10 of 1% has made during the pandemic, for example. Right. And then he has these two little nuggets. He says, look, we're not going to deprive any of these executives of their second or third homes or to travel privately by jet. Like, it's not going to affect their standard of living at all. Not even a little tiny bit. But I can affect the standard of living of people that I grew up with. And then his Business Insider kind of had this quote in there too as well. He says, look, my Republican friends this is when he started getting testy, right? My Republican friends had no problem voting to pass a tax proposal that expires in 2025 that costs $2 trillion. And he added that none of that was paid for. In fact, he said, it gave the overwhelming percentage of those tax breaks to people who didn't need it. The top 1/10 of 1% didn't need it, right?
It's, I will say, like, it's amazing, talking to, I was talking to someone at the bar the other night about Occupy Wall Street and like how they were saying that it really fizzled out and didn't have any direction. And I think I completely, wholeheartedly disagreed with that, just because I think we're now seeing like this rhetoric dominate Democratic politics of the 1%, versus the 99%. We could thank Bernie Sanders for that, for continuing that fight over his campaigns in 2016 and 2020. But like, this was something we weren't talking about until Occupy Wall Street came up. And like, we are the 99%. Like, probably one of the best slogans a campaign or a movement like has come up with. Absolutely. For quite some time.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, it drives it home it's now taken over the rhetoric of the Democratic Party, and we're still seeing this today. 10 years ago, the Democratic Party wasn't a party that was willing to tax the rich, and now we're like, it's taken over the discourse.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I agree with you 100% on that too, as well. I think that, I teach some of these courses that you look at the rhetorics of social movements and things like this. And this is one of the things that we always talk a lot about in our classes when we're talking about timelines and social movements, and like campaign thinking instead of like event thinking. And one of the things that, I think this is where, our mainstream news outlets and media outlets does us a great injustice, because it's always focused on the event, right? So we'll look at what happens at this particular event. And if something like Occupy Wall Street, right? And I'm, using event for Occupy Wall Street in a wide sense, like not just one day, but over the course of the actual occupation. We look at those events and then we ask, well, did it achieve its ends? When the event ends. And then if the answer is no, then the mainstream media, right, most of our media looks at that as a failure. When in reality, social movements have never operated in that way. You have to think about campaigns that extend over time, over years, in many cases, decades. And I think you're right on the money there by saying, look, the 99% language, right, and the campaign to draw attention to gross inequality and corporate rule has become, right, mainstream Democratic Party politics at this point, right? And it's not just because of Occupy Wall Street, but it has everything to do with, as you said, the Bernie Sanders campaign, even the Elizabeth Warren campaign, even the work that DSA has been doing, the work that even
the pushback with Wisconsin.
Exactly. I mean, the Wisconsin, right? The uprising in Wisconsin was a predecessor of Occupy Wall Street. Right. You have all these contributions to drawing attention to the destruction of our democracy, gross wealth inequality, the selling of our democracy to the highest bidder. Right. And thinking about like a different kind of future and breaking that discourse of like austerity and pay for and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty amazing, in historical terms. If you think about it from 2011 until now, that's 10 years. That is like a monumental shift in the center of like American politics. And look, and that also, came with the same shift that we saw on the right wing, right, with Donald Trump, with the rise of white nationalism and so on. So I'm not saying like, it's not a 100% celebratory story about how everything's good, but that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's been quite surprising hearing the rhetoric coming from Biden over the past several months, but it also makes me wonder if he's just saying this because he knows like these proposals can't actually get through the Senate because of senators like Warner, Kelly, Sinema, and Manchin, or Chris Coons holding things up because they want to protect the filibuster. Like it. So I don't know if this is like he's saying this at the bottom of his heart, or like he's saying this just because he knows these proposals don't have a shot of getting through the Senate, and he's not really using his bully pulpit to do that.
Well, look, I do think, I take my cue here from Sam Cedar in the Majority Report. I think he's dead on about this, about Biden's history. And Biden has always managed to find himself in the kind of center of the Democratic Party. I mean, that's his kind of, I don't know if it's how like super conscious it is, or if it's, if it's really strategic and tactical, or it just happens to be his way, right? That he wants to be kind of like liked on both sides and enough on both sides to give him that kind of center position. And so I think that what he's saying now is a reflection of that, I believe. Now, whether or not, I mean, again, let's just say that he actually means it. If you actually watch that press conference, it seems he's generally pissed off at the questions that like when they're like, how dare you have taxes? And he's like, come on, are you serious? The come on, man, that whole kind of shtick that he does. And he seemed generally kind of committed to that. The big question though is, okay, how much is he willing to fight for it? Right. What kind of political capital is going to be put behind it? Right. I mean, and is he going to do the LBJ move on these kind of like, the mansions and the cinemas and so on, to kind of strong arm them and say, look, you're either going to do this or there's going to be consequences. I don't know. But at the very least, him voicing this stuff matters, right? And the more he says stuff like this, the more it gives, I believe at least, social movements and the progressive left leverage on the Biden administration. Because when he says it, he's like, you said this. You said it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even before Biden got in office, inauguration, like, we were told in our strategy calls, like, Biden needs to be pushed and has to be pushed.
Right.
Like, you know, like, these were the things that, you know, and I mean, I think we're seeing it now with, I mean, at least we're seeing them campaign around this country for, like, the infrastructure package that he put forward, you know, like Pete Buttigieg and Bob Casey were in Pittsburgh. You have Biden and Harris going across the country supporting this stuff. So, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So that's good. And then on the heels of that, you see this back and forth, and this is like I think another good sign that, you know, kind of say progressives and the left need to kind of keep the pressure on, because we saw at the beginning of the week you had Anthony Fauci that was out on the news, out on the news shows, basically saying, look, like the president believes in intellectual property and patent protections and so on. And then like a day and a half later, you've got Biden kind of sending folks out basically saying, nope, we're all behind suspending the patents. Right. And we're gonna do this kind of like American kind of like it comes to save the world kind of move. Right. And that's what it seemed like he was trying to do. And basically say, yeah, we're behind suspending the patents in these unprecedented times. And going and lobbying to the World Trade Organization and working with the World Health Organization to how to make that happen. And in a show that I believe at least was saying that there is some like real commitment to that move, is that not only did they just say we're going to suspend the patents, but they also are saying that, no, we are actually going to get to work supplying the raw materials and the training and the infrastructure necessary to make the vaccines in these different locations. Because when Fauci came out in the beginning of the week, he was like, look, even if we suspend the patents, by the time this gets up and rolling, by the time they figure it out how to do this, it's going to be, months of, or down, months down the road. And it seems like Biden came back and was like, okay, then we're going to help get that up and running faster. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, especially as you see the hard push coming back for the pharmaceutical companies now. So,
yeah. And we're going to vaccinate the world in order to beat COVID. Like, we can't just vaccinate the United States and think it's done with. If we don't vaccinate like China or India or other parts of the world, Brazil, where this is raging right now, like we're going to be dealing with variants. And this is going to become a yearly thing.
Absolutely. So, I mean, just think about this, right? And we've talked about this on the show before, but India's like, if you look at their spikes, it looks like what the U.S. looked like during the worst of the upticks last fall, right? It's just like a straight up line. But you got to remember, right? India's population is 4 times the population of the United States, 4 times, right? So if you just kind of just do simple math, right, at the you had 300, what was it? It was like 300,000 people dying. No, how many people we had dying a day? Like 3,000 people per day, right? You multiply that by 4, you're talking about the potential. This is if it's just the same as the United States, right? Is that if it's the same, and everyone believes that there's already undercounts on this, 3,000 per day, then you're talking about 12,000 per day. Right, you're not talking about 500,000 plus deaths, right? You're talking about, 2 million deaths? I mean, and that is just if it remains the same. But, we're finding already, there's only 2% of the population that's vaccinated at this point. The Modi government is clearly like either playing politics or fumbling this. They're basically claiming that everything is fine when hospitals are showing that there's actually, people lying in parking lots dying. Right, the hospitals are out of oxygen, and then the Modi government will not release the oxygen to the hospitals who need it. So it's all sorts of weird stuff going on. What the hell is kind of going on in that administration is one thing, but the crisis looks like it's like literally out of control there. So I mean, look, Biden administration wants to get 100% behind this, get rid of these patents, and then kind of like be the champion for the world. I mean, like, hey, I think probably now is a good time for it. right? Not for like go to war, but actually go to actually help people. I mean, this could set a really, really substantially positive precedent if we can get past the the pharmaceutical companies on this one.
Yeah.
Not crazy. Crazy. So I've been dying this week to get your take on the Liz Cheney stuff.
So okay, I actually have a couple of takes on this. One, Liz Cheney is still a horrible human being. Always
Yes.
has, always will be.
Yep.
Like she has and she's someone that like liberals shouldn't be embracing, because of her getting sacrificed on the pyre of Trumpism and Trump's big lie
Yep.
that's still ravaging the party. And two, we should be very concerned about this. Like, not just, I feel like everyone in the media has gotten this wrong. They're just like thinking, oh, look at the Republicans, they're still lashing out. No, they are solidifying the big lie that that this election was stolen from Trump. They are solidifying the fact that no, I mean, like they are solidifying. They're seeing this with the voter nullification bills happening across the country on the state level, but like they are doubling down on their anti-democratic, pro-fascist tendencies, and they're doing it with total disregard.
Yep.
They're purging everyone who disagrees with Trump on that he lost the election, and they are doubling and tripling down on the destruction of our democratic norms, with just because they want to win in 2022.
Yep.
And like, if they take back the House in 2022, they can then have total chaos with the 2024 election if they choose to.
I think your read is right on the money.
Like, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you saw this last night, but Chris Hayes did kind of an extended piece on Elise Stefanik, right? Who's set to take over. Actually, Rachel Maddow did too as well. I was like listening as I was going to sleep last night. But she's really fascinating. She's from my neck of the woods, right? I mean, she doesn't represent Utica where I grew up, but just the north. So you look the whole north country of New York State, basically the whole Adirondack Mountains, that whole kind of upper hump of New York is what she represents. And what's fascinating about her is that she came in, right? She's like a Harvard grad. She kind of came in as a kind of moderate Republican, like the Club for Growth, right? This is one of the statistics they showed, gives her like I don't know, a 30% rating, right? So all these like traditional right-wing kind of libertarian moneyed people do not like her, right? Especially when she first came in. But she's clearly someone who knows where the center of the Republican Party is. Right, because by all measures, the money interest in like the traditional moneyed interest, the billionaire backers, the Koch brother people, all that stuff, they want Liz Cheney, right? For exactly the reason you said, she is like hard right, like on pretty much every issue, right? And Elise Stefanik, she came in as like a moderate, and represent all these people, and when the Trump fire hit, man, she shifted on a dime. Right?
Yeah. I mean, even like up at the day of the insurrection, she was giving out she was saying some things that were like supporting and corroborating what others were saying. And then like within a few days, like turned on AOC and like turned on everyone else that was worried about what was going on.
Exactly.
I mean, like they are using the fact that the election was stolen for 2022 right now. Right. 100%. Like, I mean, we are seeing, I mean, in Pennsylvania, we're going to see this with the Senate race. We're going to see this with the governor's race. You're going to have people like Mastriano, Muser, Mike Regan, all running for office, and they were all involved with the Stop the Steal rallies. They were all involved with post-election, pre-insurrection rallies. Denying the fact that Trump lost the election. They are pushing for this legislation now. They are catering towards the hard right, proto-fascist part of the Republican Party. right? And this is not like a symptom of Donald Trump.
Right, exactly.
The Republican Party has been going down this path for a decade or two. We saw some of this with what happened in 2010s when North Carolina governor was coming in, then radically changing the constitution of the state. I think you're seeing this now in Michigan with, instead of using the veto power, they're going after voting rights by this insane petition rule that, you petition like 7% of the electorate, and you can get a ballot, and then you can get a bill brought up in front of the legislature, and if it passes, passes with veto-proof majorities. You're seeing this here in Pennsylvania with the Republicans right now. They cannot pass their agenda because of having Governor Wolf. So they've been loading up the ballots with ballot initiatives, with constitutional amendments. You're going to see this primary with the questions overturning, restricting the governor of emergency powers, and we might be seeing that in the fall with the judicial gerrymandering because of the new maps that are going to be coming in play, and the Democrats or Republicans wanting to permanently take away the power of that. No, I mean, like, you're just seeing this all across the country. This is stuff that's been going on for a decade or two, and like, this is not because of Trump. This is what the Republican Party is. I think Trump just pushed that over the edge, made it a catalyst to even go faster.
Well, he brought it out of the open, right? I mean, one of the things that the advantage that Trump had in terms of, well, as far as that, going to right wing, white supremacist, white nationalist wing of the party, or I should say the core of the party, really is really what it is that Trump had no shame, right? And he's never had any shame. So that was what it was like. Look, all those people were kind of testing their toes in the water for so long, but were kind of afraid to venture out too far. Trump just came up and said, "Okay, I'm gonna like put the cloak right on." Right? I
mean, like, and we haven't talked about the audit that's going on in Arizona right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
But like, this has been going on for a few weeks. Obviously, I'm pretty sure our listeners have been hearing. So this audit is actually coming. They're going to try to do this in Pennsylvania. So a few weeks ago, there was an audit, the vote rally here in Pennsylvania that like 150 people showed up to. That's where Zach came out for, and like, these grifts are popping up across the country, and it's not just to like audit the vote because we know it's not going to happen, but like, they are ginning up some of the worst people who've been involved with the reopen rallies and stuff, the steel rallies. And, this is the main core of this is to cause more political violence. Like, this is to keep the insurrection going and to keep political violence going.
Yes.
Like, I've, said last week, we've had journalists, had their mask ripped off at a rally a couple weeks ago that was attended by Russ Diamond and a bunch of neo-Nazis and Proud Boys and bikers. Yes, Russ, you were there. You know what I'm talking about.
Hey, Russ Diamond. Thanks for the shout out again. You suck. Thank you.
Yeah. But like, there was a journalist there who had his face mask ripped off. I had someone get in my face because I was wearing a mask at a previous rally. Like, these people are primed again for more action, more violence. This is what, they're doing with the Republican Party with getting rid of Cheney and replacing her with Stefanik. Like, we're priming people again for more political violence and to continue Trump's big election line.
Yeah, I think you're right. I have to say, it was like, for this week, the more I started, look, I'll be honest. When I first heard this stuff on Liz Cheney, that they're going to oust her and things like this, I'm just like, whatever. Here you have a bunch of freaking clowns in the clown car, like, just doing it once again. The more I kind of started paying attention to like what was going on with Stefanik and what was happening to into those internal discussions or the arguments were coming out of the Republican Party, and looking at what's happening with exactly this case in Arizona with this whatever recount, right? Do you see that thing, that dude, like, yeah, we're looking for bamboo in the paper. Did you see that crap?
Yeah, with UV lights.
Yeah, we're looking for bamboo. And he's like, why? Well, because they over in South Asia, they use bamboo. In the
And this is
paper.
all coming from like Mike Lindell, like the My
Totally.
Pillow guy who's been getting sued out of the ass right now. Like Doug Frank, who's another person, these people are meeting with them
Right.
these people in Pennsylvania are meeting with these audit people, like that are pushing this nonsense. Like this stuff, I guarantee you, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, is going to be a major issue, like in that fringe wing of the base. I would say within a month, like we're going to see pushes like this in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, targeting Philadelphia, targeting communities of color and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and and I think it tells us a little bit about the direction of the Republican Party. When you're having your litmus test is basically, are you willing to lie? Are you willing to propagate 100% like factless, baseless propaganda, or not? And if you are not, then you're going to be expunged from the party. And that is deeply, deeply troubling, if you care at all about, the rise of fascism in kind of democratic cultures and the withering away of their democracy. So,
I mean, like in the media and like the liberal media, and especially like MSNBC and people like that, are like, oh, Biden's president, we're in a stable position right now when we're not. Like the bottom is falling. We are like on the precipice of having the bottom of our political system falling out.
well, this is why, again, once again, I think that why I appreciate Chris Hayes staying on this, right, in really explicit terms, right, and kind of Mehdi Hassan, right. I mean, his Sunday night show is actually quite good. He's on daily on Peacock too as well, where you see at least some people are on this track and paying attention to it. I mean, it's few and far between, right? Things are not normal. And as we've said numerous times on the show, as we've talked about incessantly, these people are not going away, right? I'll talk a little bit of this on our Monday show on Out the Coop Live. Is one of the things I want to talk about is some of the school board stuff that's happening in, say, Bucks County and across there. Cyril Mikuleko has been doing a great job in looking at these, really right-wing kind of, Trumpers who are QAnon conspiracy theorists who are making their ways in school board elections all throughout kind of Bucks County,
So
and what that means. Mm-hmm.
one of the people in our group chats has friends who live in Penridge.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying that like the crazies on your school board are actually drawing right wingers into your community and wanting to actually buy houses.
That's correct.
In Penridge.
That is correct.
Just because of how fucking nuts your school board is.
That is correct. It's yes. That is right. And it's actually, I've heard this, like, this is like second, third hand stuff, but it's like, I know some people who work at some local establishments, right? And they're like getting a little nervous because, they started to build some good things. Like we got, this Ram restaurant opened up, and then you've got Free Will, of course, is here. And you got some like kind of good things happening in the community. There's a Rise and Grind restaurants kind of, so, and people are feeling good about it. But then the conversations that people are now overhearing among some of the, the clientele and stuff about, well, Percy is the place to be, just got me freaking worried. Let me just say, And
also, I think, or go aheid.
There's one other thing. When I the last election, when I was actually out campaigning for school board candidates, I got like, that was my like up face to face and personal encounter with the QAnon fringe. Like, because I wasn't like, because I was campaigning for a slate of candidates that were on both Republican and Democrats, right? They were all, I mean, I think all of them were Democrats. I'm not 100% sure of that, but they were all kind of against the craziness, right? And so I was campaigning for the slate, not as a party member. So I had kind of like some of these Republicans who would come up to and talk to me because they didn't know, and I wasn't representing myself as a Democrat. I was just saying I'm supporting these candidates. That was part of our training. They would tell me stuff that was just off the hook, that I'm kind of looking at them like, oh my God.
All right, you're a zero.
Oh my God, like, oh my God. I cannot believe that this just came out of your mouth. right?
And then
like literally, this one guy will always stick in my head. He was an older guy, probably he's like an early 60s, old like farmer guy, right? Comes in, had one of those kind of like what's that guy's name? Shepherd. What's that guy's name?
Shepard Smith. No,
the guy who's the no, not Shep Smith, the actor. Got the deep voice with it, but does the big Sam Shepard. So Sam Shepard kind of, he had this kind of really nice gravelly voice, those kind of twinkly blue eyes, and like low, and he's like really nice. Comes up and shakes your hand, and you feel like you're included in the conversation. And then what comes out of the guy's mouth is just like I'm off the hook. I couldn't even believe it. But anyways, get far afield. We'll talk more about that on Out the Coop Live.
I also want to pick some with what Biden said about the Republicans having a mini revolution.
Oh God, yeah.
And that like we need a Republican Party.
Yeah, no, we don't.
This is not a mini revolution happening in the Republican Party. They're fucking purging people out and solidifying the big lie.
Right.
Like this is not like like they are 100% campaigning on this in 2022. And then 2, like we don't need a Republican Party.
No, I don't even understand that logic. I mean, how we need, I mean, this is like Pelosi's line too. Like we need a strong Republican. No, you don't.
No, a strong Republican Party is going to be your fucking
your downfall.
Stopping their boots on your neck.
Exactly.
That's a strong Republican Party.
Exactly. You don't need a strong Republican Party. You don't need a Republican Party. Right? If you want to make the case that you need multiple parties, fine. Right? But there's no reason it needs to be them. Right? I mean, and so why you would actually kind of even say that? Right? If it were me, if I were kind of making decisions up there, it's like, look, it's a responsibility. Or look, we want to have all the range of people represented here. That's why we have these 2 parties. But frankly, your party right now is going off the edge. So it's responsibility of any kind of moderate Republican that is left within that party. You need to start thinking seriously about establishing your own party and breaking away from the crazies. Right? I mean, that's the flame to fan right there. Right? You go split that party in 2 and get rid of those freaking people. And then, hold them all accountable. And if those people are really the moderates who want to work, then go ahead, do the work of building a new party, because that one is dead, or is dangerous, I should say.
So that's all I got to say.
Yeah. Anyways. So I just want to give a shout out again to my friend Stu. You've heard me talk about on the show before. He lives over in Northern Ireland. He lives in Derry. He wrote this book a few years back. It's absolutely fantastic. It's called Smashing H Block, the popular campaign against criminalization and the Irish hunger strikes of 1976 to 1982. Comes out of Liverpool University Press. I've actually tried to beg him to come on the show to talk some of the international stuff of what's happening in Ireland. And I don't, who knows why, like he won't, right? He won't come on. It's like, I'm like, seriously, right? For whatever. He's an awesome guy. And this book is amazing. He's actually, he's gotten all this praise for this book, because it does a couple things. Like number one, like the Bobby Sands family and people came out and praised it. And that is, not a normal thing to happen, number one. And number two, it broke new ground in the study what was going on, because the focus was not just on the hunger strikers. The focus primarily in the text was on everyone who made it possible. So what's highlighted in the book are basically the outside organization and women, right? The women who made all of that movement possible, right? That sustained that entire movement and those hunger strikes from outside. Right. And so that was the first study, at least this is how it's been talked about in studies in this area. It's been one of the first books that's come out that's really focused on the organization and the kind of the community organization that was happening around those hunger strikes. So if you're looking for a way to, kind of remember Bobby Sands on this week is the 40th anniversary of his death. He was one of the hunger strikers in Maze Prison in Northern Ireland. He was 27 when he died. That helped galvanize a really kind of broad-based movement and attention to what was happening in Northern Ireland. You can pick up that book. Again, it's called Smashing H Block. I'll put the link in the show notes today.
So I want to talk about, I love the selfie that Kevin Boyle posted at Bobby Sands' grave. And, obviously he took that, was able to catch up with him yesterday. He said he took that like a year and a half ago, pre-COVID, when he was over in Ireland.
Yep.
The Boyle brothers, Kevin and Brendan, Brendan's a congressman, Kevin's a House rep. they spent their childhood, their lives living over there in the summer times. Like, and he grew up so they spent their summers growing up in Ireland, Northern Ireland during the Troubles, like in the 70s and 80s. And Kevin, their grandfather was part of the original Irish Republican Army. Never collected their pension, and he never collected his pension because, as he said, they didn't get the job done. Reunifying Ireland as one country. Mm-hmm. So Boyle posted a selfie remembering Bobby Sands the other day, and pissed off a whole bunch of like Northern Protestants.
I'll say.
I mean, just go find his Twitter account, find the photo, and like just look at the replies about this. It is amazing, and how pissed off like the Ulster Scots get over remembering Bobby Sands and the hunger strikes.
Yeah.
Like the Orange Men and stuff like that.
I mean, you really get a sense of what that's like. I mean, like how virulent this and how deep it runs when you just follow what the comments in his Twitter thread, right, and what people are saying. It really tells you. I think when my wife and I went over to visit my friend Stu, he had this big surprise plan for us. We didn't know what it was, but he got us a tour, right, by someone who had been involved in the struggle. And if you know anything about kind of Northern Ireland, the black cabs were absolutely critical in Northern Ireland, because the black cabs were one of the few ways that kind of Irish kind of Republicans, right, the nationalists, right, what in mainstream we call Catholics, but really the Republicans, they could be safe, like coming home from pubs and things like this, and the cab drivers would kind of be one of the main modes of transportation. So anyways, this was basically like a black cab tour of Belfast, and he took us into some of these sites where people were assassinated, people were dragged out of pubs and were put on pikes outside people's homes. And I had never had the experience. There's two things that stuck out so much from in that tour. I could go on and on about it, but when you go into Belfast and there's like a wall, right, separating the Protestant and the kind of the Catholic areas, right, right down the center of Belfast, and it's huge. And you're confronted by this with these gates that are shut every night and everything like this, about like, holy crap, right? And there's these Catholic communities that kind of run right up against these row houses, that run right up against the wall, that where on the kind of on the unionist side of things, they used to throw Molotov cocktails and firebombs over onto the roofs of these homes, kind of when there was these upticks. But then we went onto the unionist side, right, and the Protestant side, and he took us to the place where they stage the marches. They go on this marching season where they kind of march through kind of Catholic neighborhoods, and it's like where this stuff is staged. And I don't think I have ever felt more a target than when I was standing there. So we're standing in this kind of this open area. There's nobody around, but it's like you could feel the hate. It was the weirdest experience I ever had. So it's anyways, that's kind of like part of my memories of kind of what goes on. And it's like you start talking to folks that are there, and it's hard to get a sense of what was actually at stake and what life was actually like there, and it continues to be there to a certain degree. During the struggles, right? And
these marches are now still going on.
Yes, exactly. The marches,
and like these marches are happening because of the right wing shift in politics with Nigel Farage, with the fucking whoever the fuck their person is, their prime minister is now over in England. Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But like, I mean, like once like that regime took over, and once Brexit happened, like, like that's what really was an uptick of stuff that came back. And according to Boyle, he was saying yesterday, like the only group of people that supported Trump in all of fucking Europe were the Ulster Scots in Northern Ireland.
Yep.
like they're the only group of people that like did that supported him. And apparently, a lot of these marches were banned for a while,
Yes.
and now they're coming back because of Trump and because of like the right wing politics
Well,
happening in
it's
England.
really complicated because it's also has stuff that's, you know, what happened with Brexit. Like Boris Johnson promised the North that there would never be this kind of like trade barrier kind of in between, you know, the England and Northern Ireland, and then now there is this kind of trade thing. I mean, so there's a bunch of stuff that's happening that is it's adjacent to the issues that you're talking about, right? But it just kind of feeds into it, right? There's these, you know, it's always the case. There's these resentments and these problems that are just boiling like below the surface. And then you have something like a Trump or, you know, these folks that kind of come along and just, you know, set things on fire again. So I don't know. So there you have it. There you have it. I haven't planned on talking a whole lot about that, but there you go. Trump has a new blog. That's all I'll say about that.
Is it on WordPress?
I could care less.
Is it Blogspot?
It's
Blogger?
blogger.com, I think. No, whatever.
I think it's hosted on AOL, right?
Yeah, definitely. He's got a great kind of AIM messenger is actually.
Oh, did you see? Okay, speaking about Trump, one thing I wanted to add in there.
Yeah.
Did you see what the FEC did yesterday?
No.
The FEC voted 6-0 in joining a resolution calling on Congress to ban the pre-checked boxes in campaign fundraising emails that Trump used to basically bilk seniors out of their fucking savings during the election season.
Good for that.
And usually this is something like that. It's extremely rare for the FEC to issue a 6-0 ruling, and even like rarer for them to do that on something that's like very partisan. So even like the FEC realized what Trump did was pretty fucking ridiculous.
Crazy.
So that's the last thing I add to.
Yeah. Well, we just gotta, you know, I just have one last thing before we close out the segment. This summer, everybody, look, I know everyone's like a little pent up, a little like pent up, and is looking to go a little nuts this summer. Look, I'm gonna be the last person who's gonna tell you to keep it in your pants, but you know, it's like Jesus Christ, it's like please be straight. I mean, some of the discussions that I've seen online about the hot vax summer is getting me a little disturbed. I don't know if I'm just getting old or what, but holy crap!
It's amazing seeing how many of my friends got divorced this past year.
Oh, really?
Oh, I know a bunch of people who've gotten, not like I know like some. I don't want to name anyone, but like
sure. No, I'm not asking.
No, but like I've noticed a bunch of people who like had their engagements canceled because of COVID and just split up, had divorces and all. Like, yeah, it just.
Yep.
Things are ripe.
Well, it's kind of like
no, I mean
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I could feel that. It almost like feels that atmosphere out here in Harrisburg as well. Like not saying hot vax summer, but like it's starting to pick up with people that now like who are getting vaccinated. Like, you know, I've been to the bar a few times over the past couple of weeks, not gonna lie. You know, even just from talking to my barber and shit like that. It has that feeling of shit's about to uncork. Like, you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Dude,
like,
I'm walking around my town, right? And there's like high school kids walking around, and I'm like, I can feel it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, we're all talking like about going back to concerts, having that stuff come back. I mean, I bought tickets to go see Portugal the Man at the end of the summer. They're playing on the Harrisburg Riverfront. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to try to get tickets. I'm trying to get press passes for that because I know I've hung out with them a few times. But no, I can definitely like shit's about to uncork. I could feel you can feel it happening.
Yeah. So look, and so if it's uncorking, it's uncorking. But one, make sure you get your vaccination, right? Like, you know, or, you know, the hashtag, if I have the hashtag like vaxxed and waxed show up in my freaking feed one more time, I'm like, I don't want to see this. You know, it's like, but look, if you know, if that's what you got to do, is you got to do. But one, make sure you get your vaccination. And 2, like, unless you want to have that little tyke running around in about 9 months, right? Just like, put a jacket on it, huh? Right? That's all I'm saying.
Thanks, Dad.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, the worst thing about, again, I have these, these like,
I'm sure, like, like, it's gonna be nuts once kids return to campus next year too.
oh, dude.
The college parties,
Look,
yeah.
Look, it's again, like, I'm whatever, do what you're gonna do, but like, let's just remember, let's just not remember things like, STDs are still a thing, right? AIDS has not disappeared. Right? Let's have fun, have at it, uncork, but be careful. Don't replace one pandemic with yet another, right? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. For what it's worth. No one's gonna listen to me anyways, but I'm just gonna say it because I just had to say.
On that note,
I'm gonna take a little break here. All right, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. Want to remind you that you can become a patron of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Just go to patreon.com/rcpress. Become a patron today. And do it once again. Huge shout out to Jillian. Huge shout out to Ross. Huge shout out to Steve, who became patrons right here. All right, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. We'll be back right after this quick break. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney here once again with Sean Kitchen. And Nick, I just want to give a shout out to Nick. Nick asked, let's see where he says, I swear I remember you saying you're going to do something exclusively talking about Pashi. Are you still going to be doing that? So here's a couple things, Nick, before we kind of get into stuff in this segment. So on Monday's Out to Coop Live, I was going to talk a little bit at the end of this segment too as well. On Monday's Out to Coop Live, I'm going to be kind of digging in a little bit stuff on Pashi. Talk a little bit about, and that's going to be one of the components of the show. I'm going to use it as kind of an open phones for folks to be able to kind of join the chat and kind of questions. So we can talk a little bit about as we try out our new platform, Riverside FM. More details on that will be kind of put into, our usual places. But in addition to that, it's the end of the semester right now, and most of the people that I've talked about who are doing organizing work within Pashi are just strapped to the gills right now with the end of the semester grading and everything like this. So I put it on a little hold to have a kind of a full show that's going to be focused on that. And just until we can bring them back. And probably what I'm going to do is that I have one group of folks that's going to be talking about college debt, that hope we're going to get on the Out the Coop live show on Monday. But on Wednesday, not next Wednesday, but one of those Wednesdays, I want to have a special focus show. We're going to bring like a panel of folks to come on. That's kind of the idea. So I just want to, kind of acknowledge that, because yes, I did talk about that before, and said that was coming up, and we're just kind of working on the organizational logistics of it. That's it. But anyways, thanks for the question. I appreciate it. Sean, yeah. So what's happening here in PA? It seems like it was kind of an interesting week, to say the least.
Not a whole lot. So can you hear? Okay, there we go. I didn't know if you can hear me now. Sorry, I'm coming through. Yeah. So Governor Wolf, we can start off doing some good news. Some really good news. Governor Wolf fired the Charter Appeals Board this week and nominated Shannon Danielson and a bunch of others to the board. This is something we've been following for a long time. The Charter Appeals Board was filled with holdovers from the Corbett administration, whose terms expired by the time Governor Wolf finished his second year of his first term. So kudos for Governor Wolf for finally stepping up and getting around to this. It's a few years a little too late, but no, I mean he put charter or private or public school advocates on there. And no, I mean, the Charter Appeals Board is a mechanism set up underneath the Corbett administration that allowed charters to run around local control when the residents would say no, or local school boards would say no to a charter school coming in. The charter schools had the power to appeal that decision and go in front of a charter school friendly board and pretty much get whatever they wanted out of that board. And Governor Wolf finally fired everyone on the board. We'll see what happens with that. But I mean, it's something that we at PA Spotlight and others have been following and calling attention to for the past few years. I guess shit posting about the Charter Appeals Board finally got around to getting to people.
Yeah, it's just, it's amazing what it takes. I mean, it's if only they had been listening to you, Sean, about, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years
beginning of January 19. I mean, this was something, so a little reminiscing about the Charter Appeals Board. I wasn't even planning on this today, but, we talked about this, one of our calls back in, late 2018, early 2019 with PA Spotlight, and it's okay, I'm going to start going to these things once a month, and literally there's no one in the fucking room. All the members are phoning it in. So I showed up, got a couple of pictures, and then I told Roxbury about it. Told my friend Roxbury, the guy who owns the deck, the building with the deck. He showed up with his camera, and by this point, there were the Department of Ed's press secretary was there, their communications people were there, wondering what we were doing. Why is the media finally showing up to this? And literally, it took a few months of just taking photos of how only one or two board members would show up, for other media to get in. So yes, I will take credit here. I was the one who got the ball rolling on this, and just taking the insane photos of just having the solicitor sitting at the table with empty microphones lined up next to him, just each time. And it got to the point where you could just tell these members didn't even want to fucking be on this thing anymore. And they're only there because their terms expired, but there were no nominations for their replacements.
It's crazy. I remember when you went to the first time that you went to the Charter Appeals Board, and on the show,
hey,
It, like,
you gotta check
literally,
this out.
well, you had kind of like your jaw was kind of practically open in discussion. Like, you couldn't believe that this is what it was. And the pictures that came out of that were the freaking funniest things I have ever seen. It's like there's nobody there. Just like whatever. And you know what? Frankly, if we had
And like, no, I mean, like the kids like from Mastery and stuff like that, charter school operators would bring the fucking students in and pack the room with students inside of this innocuous hearing room inside the Department of Ed building, which is like pretty far removed from the Capitol. It's like 4 or 5 blocks away from the Capitol. You have to go. Maybe the escalator is working. Maybe it's not working by the time you go up. Like it. And it was so hilarious just to sit there once a month and watch this happen. And you gotta start telling other people about it. It's like, yeah, you have to go, like, you want to cover something that's like truly fucking astonishing. Like, go to a charter appeals board. And at that point, like, people didn't really know what the charter appeals board was. Like, you know, like until like you start telling the Capitol Press about this, and they're just like, wait, what? And then like it got to the point where like Lizzie Harrison from the Capitol Star was going on a monthly basis, and then you had a couple of House staffers tweeting out, "Oh boy, really looking forward to my favorite genre of Twitter is the empty charter appeals board hearing photos that come out." It's just like
it's a great collection.
I mean, but that's type of like accountability work. You know, shining a fucking spotlight on this shit. Like, and you know, wish it would have happened sooner.
Well,
but,
and like,
I mean,
but I also say, like, you know, that's the kind of thing. If we had, you know, like
a functional press,
exactly. If we had that, then that would have been a stain on the Wolf administration much earlier. And actually, we could have made it a functional body earlier, right? I mean,
yeah. And I think like the governor's whole like argument is he doesn't think this thing should exist to begin with, which I agree with him. I think it's bullshit. It should not be existing.
But then you know what you do then if you're gonna fine, that's just a freaking cop out in my mind. Is like the thing is you want to say that's fine. Then why do you leave Corbett people on the board? Number one,
party like it's 2008.
No, and frankly, the fact that he appointed Shanna Danielson, right, is what that should have happened in his first term. If he didn't think it to believe, then you pick the best possible people you could have on that. They're going to be advocates of public education. Right, and you nominate them for that, and you force the political issue over and over again, instead of this garbage that's been going on for the past 6 years or whatever, however long it is.
Yeah,
crazy. But those pictures of those board hearings are still some of like
your favorite.
They warm my heart, Sean. They warm my heart. That's all I gotta say.
I used that hearing to sharpen up my photography skills. You know, that's where I became a good photographer. Just like, what's the best way of getting
right? How do you really zoom in on a mic? What
I still
ways that you can catch the light on that empty chair?
Well, I still think my favorite photo is just catching the photo of the solicitor, Mark Ziccarelli or whatever his name is, just like sitting in the middle, and just having like 4 empty microphones on both sides of him, just like going, just like, yep, here's the meeting. And it was getting to the point where they were getting uncomfortable with us being there on a monthly basis.
Of course they were, right? Of course they were, because they realized that, you know, I mean, look, I would be embarrassed to be on that board, right? I mean, the fact that they even sat on the board. I mean,
or if you're the solicitor, like you're like, oh, I gotta deal with this again, and I'm getting my photos everywhere. This like empty fucking board, right. Where it's his job to be there. It's like his duty as a Department of Ed official.
Totally. I mean,
it was getting to the point where the Department of Ed chair just stopped going. That's just like and then they were like, oh, here's the better part. So like they needed action items, and you like they were following like Robert's rules or something like that, and you need like a majority of the people on the board appointed there to like move an action item. So there were votes like taking a 3-1 vote like 4 or 5 months in a row, just like taking, there were votes that were happening, but they were getting a majority of the people on the call versus like a majority of the board. So
nothing could happen.
And there's just one person voting no every time. And they're like, what the fuck?
Can't we just do one thing?
Yeah, like it was that. I mean, that's how like dysfunctional the board was. Like, I mean, you had a Department of Ed chair who just wasn't going, and then you had them following like Robert's rules. So you need a majority of the board, not a majority of like the people on the call to for an action item. And like vote passes, but because it's non actionable. So I mean, like it was that was just great, like watching that. So I mean, it just shows you like it was one of the most dysfunctional fucking things. And it was just funny, like seeing the same lawyers come back month after month because they're like, "Oh, you again?" Just like,
here we are.
And Roxbury and I were just laughing at it, like we were just turning this into a joke. Like this is just a spectator sport at this point. That's all I gotta say about the Chart Appeals Board. But it was a fun time.
No, that's something. And congratulations to Shanna for getting the nod.
We'll see if it goes anywhere.
I assume that the PA GOP Republicans on both the House and the Senate and everyone in between will rush forward to have hearings to make sure that your appointment will happen ASAP.
Yeah.
Not, but we shall see. But seriously, that's something. But
I mean, it's good political football to play with.
Right. But then we seem to have a little something going down in Philly too, as well.
Yes. So Eli Krasner's up for re-election this primary. Apparently, it's getting a little bit closer than what it's supposed to be, but it seems like Carlos Vega, his challenger, is lashing out right now and doing things that like normally wouldn't do if you're in a contention to win a race. So one of the main sticking points in this election on Carlos Vega's side is that he prosecuted someone who was found acquitted over DNA evidence and chose to re-prosecute him even though he was exonerated for a murder he did not commit, and the DNA evidence showed that. And Vega was fired by Krasner, like literally like first day on the job when Krasner got in office a few years ago. And this is who the FOP, the police unions, a couple of the building trades are supporting because of their hatred of Krasner. Now, it should be noted that Krasner has the endorsements of the Philly AFL-CIO, Reclaim Philly, the SEIU Healthcare, I think Healthcare PA, or like one of the SEIU chapters, AFSCME Council 13 or 47, AFSCME 47, which is in the city, the Teachers Union. So Krasner has a lot of big labor endorsements.
Right.
No building trade endorsements, but Krasner also getting the support of like half of City Hall. Rick Krajewski, Nikhil Saval all spoke out in support of Krasner. So saying that, there's a stunt that McNesby, Jabba the Hutt, pulled off last Friday. He had a Mr. Softy ice cream cone or a Mr. Softy ice cream truck in front of Krasner's office all day, handing out free ice creams to whoever wanted one passing by. Try to call him Mr. Softy, but you know. And so
whatever.
Ben Cohen from Ben and Jerry's released this amazing statement. The FOP is out of control, regularly lashing out against anyone who threatens their unquestioned power. To be clear, Mr. Softy isn't even ice cream. It's pumped up with a lot of hot air, which is frozen in a limp sort of way. It's chock full of artificial ingredients. In short, it's fake ice cream. Just like the lies the FOP has been telling about a courageous fighter for justice and one of the best DAs in the U.S.
Yep, that's how you bring it.
In Philadelphia.
But I mean, it's amazing seeing the FOP lash out at Krasner over this election. I don't think it's closer than what it should be for this, from what I've heard, but it feels like Krasner's going to pull it out after the debate the other night. Vega had this really weird, there was this really weird back and forth. I'm going to read it. So after the debate ended, there was a hot mic exchange. And this is what Alex Silverman from KYW News Radio, I have this tweet linked in the notes. Sorry. It says, as Krasner and Vega were removing their mics, the animosity between the two grew sharper. Quote, I'm your worst nightmare. You made a mistake a long time ago, said Vega. I've been in your head a long time. Sure, Carlos, Krasner replied. Vega then said, you have security downstairs? Why do I need it? Do you want me to give you a ride home? Asked Vega. I think you need to walk, replied Krasner, making the room starkly uncomfortable. Before Vega said, do you want to shake hands, and offered to hug it out before Krasner walked out of the studio. And Vega then went on to claim afterwards, try to clarify the tone. And he said, another tweet's like, no, it just hurts my feelings. I've known him for years, and then there's hatred. As my mother taught me, you're good as you get. I'm living rent free in his head. He thinks about me constantly. I don't know. Krasner sounds like he's living rent free, allowing Vega to live rent free in his head.
No.
With him just saying, sure, Carlos.
Sure, Carlos.
And then, for someone who's living, Vega living rent free in Krasner's head, Vega filed a lawsuit because of mean social media posts aimed at Vega by Krasner's supporters.
Well, that earns him.
So, I mean, I think Krasner's going to pull it out. Suing your opponent over social media post is something you don't do if you're in a close race.
Well, and it's just it astounds me about even something like that. You're suing because of mean tweets, but then you're kind of doing this Mr. Softy nonsense, right? It's you're hooked up with these folks who are kind of want to say, Krasner is kind of too soft on crime and all this other kinds of stuff and blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to be like, he was mean to me on Twitter. So I'm going to file a lawsuit. He's going to be sorry. I mean,
there's also this group called Philly Power Research. It's been doing a lot of good stuff through through campaign finance reports. Yep. Definitely a Twitter account worth following. They were posting stuff about Vega and his supporters and the PAC supporting Vega. And Vega's Twitter team would be responding in such combative ways to, oh, we got receipts we can show you. And no, we're looking at the fucking reports that's been filed. So
here it is. I mean, I don't know. This is not an argument or an opinion. This is just the report that's filed. So,
yeah.
Oh, well. What are you going to do? I mean, I was surprised. I was very surprised that we're seeing such a close race down there. And, I suspect that, look, I mean, Philly's been organized enough right now. I mean, because normally and it's
also you have Nikhil Saval and Elizabeth Fiedler and
Rick
Krajewski, who came out of getting Krasner elected.
Right.
And then got elected themselves afterwards.
Right. And they've been, I mean, if you're following them, I mean, they've been kind of active on this too as well and supporting the campaign. And you've got a really kind of good kind of groundswell of folks that are going to support him, which is thank God, because, Democrats are notoriously bad, or, kind of progressive Democrats especially are notoriously bad about coming out and kind of off your elections. But that is, we've been talking about that for, ages now, but that's been significantly changing with all the organizing going on. So, man, let's, fingers crossed that Krasner pulls this one out.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I got.
I think it will. Oh, good. I just want to point you to just as a great column that Will Bunch pointed to this week that about the moves to dismantle the Paschi system, right? Basically turning the American dream into a nightmare. And he makes the point, which I think is a really important one to make in that column, that most of these districts that are going to be decimated by the closures, or particularly the mergers, of the 6 universities into 2, but significantly those areas that are going to be affected the most are represented by Republicans, right? And so you've got Republicans in this, the hearings that are actually advocating for either the closure or the dismantling of Paschi on some of the universities, and they're to the detriment of their own constituents. So it's, again, I think he points out the actual, how horrible this is. And, the one thing that I have to say is I definitely, check out the link in the show notes to his.
Did you see the meme that Schweier posted last night?
I did not.
Okay, so it's in the foreground. With a zoom
This is
lens.
Representative Peter Schweier of Lehigh Valley.
Yeah. So in the foreground, it's Dan Greenstein sitting at the table, out of focus. Looking at his back, with then Pete Schweier looking at him in the background. In focus, and he said, "This is the face I make when I'm being fed a line of bullshit." I knew you would appreciate.
Oh my
Yes.
God, that's awesome! I got to reach out to him and see if I can get him on the show, because I would love to. I would love to talk to him about Pashy in particular, because he's been right out in front, like on this stuff here. And even Will Bunch quotes him as this here. He says, he spoke to him, and he says, Schweier basically told him, "I've never seen government cheering the demise of government entity like I have today." And there has been that sense among Republicans, right, is that they've just they're licking their chops to be able to destroy something. In ways it's really gonna do serious damage to communities, to students, to faculty. Obviously, just a reminder, when we were talking about that report that came out, I'm looking at the economic impacts here. You're talking about well over 1,500 jobs that are going to be directly lost as a result just of those mergers. You're also talking about the redesign plans, and you're talking about the overall impact of over 2,200 jobs in Pennsylvania are going to be lost, with potential long-term negative impacts on those communities. And so, this is just incredible. It's really disgusting to see what the Republicans are doing on this one. And it's also it's one of these moments where the Democratic Party in this state, thank God we're seeing some changes in this, deserve some of the blame on this one, because let's recall that Ed Rendell, whatever godfather of Pennsylvania Democratic Party, he was a champion of kind of austerity measures and things like this in the state system. And, for a while, Democrats were on that bandwagon of cutting funds to public education, cutting funds to public higher education, the whole austerity measures, because they were afraid of the whole kind of, the tax cut mania of the Reagan era. Well, we're past that now. And we need to kind of turn the page in that. So, again, all the more reason it's fantastic to see this, new generation of progressive left legislators that are kind of telling us a different story. So, but we'll definitely have more of that in the weeks to come. The last thing I want to kind of talk about is once again, I want to give the shout out to Representative Russ Diamond. That is Representative Russ Diamond. Russ Diamond is, frankly, probably one of the more despicable members of the Pennsylvania legislature. But he was kind enough. After I had a great show on Monday night. Talked to Joshua Probanek. He's the one of the co-director, co-creator of the film Invisible Hand, about the rights of nature stuff, and he's the co-founder of the Public Herald, which is great cutting investigative journalism nonprofit based out of kind of western part of the state. Just phenomenal, right? Just great conversation. We had a great, so I get off and I, just let everybody know, hey, the podcast is up. And there it is. I don't know. It was probably closing time or something like that. And he was probably a little, getting a little edgy. But Russ Diamond decided to hop on Twitter, just for us. It was I was a little touched. So
I was trying to wonder. Oh, go ahead. But
but basically saying, he's well, let me just pull it up here for a minute, because it was really, I do have to say, it's always nice to, to know that there's people listening, right? That there's people out there and they're taking what you got to say. And so basically, he hopped on, he said, it's is it chock full of lies like all your others are? Right? So he hopped on there, and lo and behold, little did I know, Russ, that your whole agenda there was actually you're looking to help us out, because we got a flood of people kind of joining our podcast and shooting kind of messages of support. So, Russ Diamond, you suck. Thank you very much for giving us that shout out and letting everybody know that, yes, we will put you in the target any chance that we get, because you have done literal damage to our Commonwealth. But thank you, Russ. You suck.
So I guess he didn't like the fact that we talked on our last podcast
last week
about how he was hanging out with neo-Nazis, Proud Boys, bikers from the America First Biker Club, having them as security. He Russ is an okay person in the Capitol, but you never see him like. I guess he gets his jollies going once he has people flanking him, like neo Nazis acting as security, or if he's behind his thumbs on Twitter. But I never really like that in person. I don't know why, but
well, yeah, I think he prefers in person. He prefers to directly infect people with a COVID virus instead. Right, I think that's his. He'd rather do that than actually have to have uncomfortable conversation with people in person. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever. So thank you, Russ.
Russ,
for the show.
Russ, you can always approach me and say hi. We've talked before. I'm a nice person.
Yeah, nice person. There you go. No, look, he's welcome to, just make sure, he's welcome to follow the podcast, comment on it. Anytime that we hit up,
write us a critical review.
Absolutely fantastic. Make sure you add us, like no subtweets, Russ. Love for you to help us get the word out. So I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. Anyways, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. Appreciate you staying with us, everybody. Want to remind you that you can actually join us up on our Discord now. We've got our Discord up and running. This is like a soft launch today. We haven't really been pushing it out too much. There's a couple little glitches if you're following us on YouTube right now. Is a weird thing. This is a known problem within some of the overlays on Discord. That's the name stuff is showing up weird. That's something that I've been trying to work out. But I figured we'd give it a roll, see what it's like today. But you can join us on Discord. You can go right down into our chat. Or right down in our show description, you can hit the link and you can join the Discord. We will, as a routine, we will be keeping the Discord live after the close of the show. So if you want to stick around, we'll be moving from the live chat and we'll be moving into the lounge. So that if you're in the live chat channel now, that's great. But you can head into the lounge channel afterwards. You want to sit around and kind of chat as I go through the production process. So it's cool. Anyways, you can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/rcpress. Become a patron for as little as $5 a month. We'll be right back after this quick break with this week's Last Call. Welcome back to Raging Chickens, Out to Coop Live, or Out to Coop Podcast, not the live. I don't know if you caught it, but Sean doing some flexing on the way in. Look at that.
Nah, my arms are just killing me. I'm just stretching. Why?
Were you working out or something?
So I went back. I hurt my foot running a couple weeks ago. So I wanted to now that I'm vaccinated, I wanted to reopen my my account to the Y, which I got it done in under 5 minutes. I called them, told them I was a previous member. I canceled it because of the pandemic, but I'm now vaccinated. They literally just renewed my membership.
Yep.
They had all my stuff back in their database. They're like, "Is this your checking account that ends in these numbers?" Yep. "Is this your address?" Yep. I was like, "I still got my old cards." Is that okay? They're like, "Yep." And so it was amazing. Great service. I love the East Shore Y. I went back. I lifted for the first time yesterday. Light weights, because I'm not I used to be able to bench.
Unlike what we would call your nocturnal activities.
I used to be able to bench 225 pretty easily. But I just kept it pretty light yesterday. But man, my arms are right around my elbows are just fucking sore.
Well, I wanted to see if you could actually, I wanted to tease you out and see if you could actually, how many drops for your lifestyle channel that you could give in one. You're like, yeah, when I was going down to work out, I was running back. I hurt my foot on my way to get a pan. I stopped by the store for my cooking that I was going to do later on tonight on my back deck, which I'm just setting up with some new plants.
I made some chicken.
Wait, before you go into that, we got to check. Nick, Nick's got a question about your sweatshirt. Wants to say, Sean, sweatshirt, PAIPA.
Yep. I got a reason why I used to work at Pizza Boy, bartender there. I think they probably have these shirts. I know that or hoodies, they sell out pretty quickly, but but it's a nice like hockey jersey type, and it's like super comfortable.
There you go. See that? We're all about connecting people, Sean. We're all about connecting,
Yeah.
especially in the last call. Anyways, you're saying cooking. You were talking about your cooking.
Oh no, I made some chicken parm last night. Bizarre was like, "You're making this while I'm away from a session." I was like, "What? You can't cook?" And he's like, "Not while I'm in Harrisburg."
Oh man. Well, hey, we got a couple of things. Space news here before. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, did you watch the documentary? Yeah,
I have not. Are we allowed to talk about that?
I'll give a little teaser about it because this is something I don't, like we're doing this. We're gonna be doing something.
When we're allowed to talk about it, you make sure you give me a heads up, and I will make sure it's watched. I'm done with my grading this weekend, so it's on my agenda. That's
you got to watch this documentary that Mastriano did. Yeah. I'll wait to talk about it, but it should be. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Like I was literally like I watched it as soon as I got off this podcast last week, and I called my boss. Like, hey, I'm getting ready. We started talking. He's like, listen, I'm 45 minutes into this thing. I was like, I'm sucked into it. I can't talk right now. Like, I gotta get off the phone and like watch the rest of this. Like, so I mean, it was that good. We're gonna be doing a movie review on this, which is going to be like amazing. Like, it's so fucking insane. It's like a socialist horror porn film, dystopic horror porn on like Pennsylvania and like the COVID restrictions.
Oh my God. That's quite a trailer for it.
Yeah. There's this guy like who was talking about like growing up in Czechoslovakia, which I've seen him in a couple of these rallies. And just saying like some of the most crazy fucking shit, like comparing COVID restrictions to death camps. Like, and then they cut to like pictures of like Dachau and Auschwitz and stuff like that. Like, and he just like, in socialist Russia, they teach you the devil is the capitalism. Yes, why that's a fact. The devil is the capitalism.
The devil is the capitalism.
So, I mean, yeah. I can't wait to talk about this.
Oh my God, I can't wait. And I want to prep that. So I want to prep that so like I can have some sound clips ready to go for that one because that's
it is like literally like it's just an hour, 10 minutes, just wall to wall right wing propaganda, dramatic like heartstrung music and all that stuff.
Like, yeah,
like all the fucking bad actors of like the Reopen push over the past year featured in it.
Great. That's awesome. That's what.
There's actually a clip of me. I found a clip of me in there covering the Black Lives Matter protest.
Oh, really?
Yes. Like
nice.
they pulled a news clip and you could see me with my camera like shooting down and all. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I think, this will be the great kind of cleansing film to really kind of get like hot vax summer off on the right foot. That's all.
Well, these people don't believe in vax.
Oh, so. There you go. So a few things in space news this week. This is actually kind of like, one kind of, like funny, whatever is going on here, but also kind of disturbing. So there's an 18-ton kind of rocket booster. It's from, if you remember, we talked about this last week. China has launched its first segment of its new space station, right? It's the first ever space station. And they have to do, I believe, 11 more launches in order to complete the space station, which potentially means 11 more chances for an 18-ton booster rocket to kind of come crashing down to the Earth. So this happened once before, and it's unclear because China's not exactly, like transparent about its kind of doings. So it's unclear if this was an accident and it was supposed to be a controlled reentry, or if they just didn't give a shit, right? So what happened, what I was reading a little bit about this is like, normally what happens is a booster goes up, right? And then it's let go, right? Or kind of like, is discarded at a certain point before it hits orbit, right? So that basically it can't go into orbit around the Earth, but it kind of comes up, right? And then gravity will pull it down. Right, so gravity will pull it back down, and they have a relatively good idea about where it's gonna end up. In this case, the booster got let go like too late. Right, so it actually went in orbit around the Earth, right? But it was a low orbit, right? And there's obviously it's not powered. It wasn't designed to stay up there, and so now it's just kind of like slowly degrading in terms of its orbit. They didn't know when it was going to come down, but now they pinpointed it sometime kind of late Saturday, maybe in the Sunday, but then they're not even sure. I guess these things are really, really difficult to predict. You've actually got U.S. kind of like Coast Guard and military. The militaries are looking to see if they're going to need to actually try to shoot this thing down, if it has the potential of coming down like over land. But 70% chance it's going to land in water, and I say 70% because 70% of the Earth is covered with water, right? But other than that, they just don't know. So it could amount to nothing and plunge into the Pacific Ocean. But if it hits something like, I don't know, Indianapolis, right, or Los Angeles or Beijing, right, this could be potentially catastrophic, right? So, eyes in the sky.
It's just a flesh wound.
It's just a mere flesh wound. It's just a flesh wound, right? There's nothing wrong with me, right? So pretty crazy. I mean, so we'll see what happens. Eyes in the sky, heads up this weekend. If there's a big ball of fire coming and you see it, like, not the time to stargaze, right? Make sure you're out of its path. Because 18 tons, this is like one of the largest pieces of space debris that has come down to Earth, like, in history. So it's a kind of a big deal. So watch out. And then, it raises a whole bunch of other questions. And, again, I know I constantly warn about doing this, but if I ever get the chance to do some of my just the space shows that we're going to do, it's probably going to happen next year because I'm working on a class on this stuff. But I'd love to get into some of the policy and things because there are guidelines and policies that are kind of how you deal with kind of space debris and a bunch of stuff like this. But China is not part of a bunch of those policies, so we shall see. In other space news, SpaceX, they finally stuck the landing with the SN-15 Starship. SN just stands for serial number, right? Number 15 is the 15th version, right? If you recall, we've talked about it before. They've been this giant, humongous starship. They've been they do this little flip maneuver. It goes up, they test it, it comes down, it comes down on its belly, then it flips and kind of lands vertically. Well, they've pretty much blown up every rocket up until now, which is kind of SpaceX way of doing things, which is why I think Chancellor Greenstein of Pashi kind of is so keen on destruction. I think he's wished he had been able to kind of be hired by SpaceX so he could just destroy shit. But anyways, they stuck their first landing. And it's kind of a big deal. This is kind of one of the largest ones that's been built. It was chosen by NASA to be the go-to ship for its lunar landing. So the fact that it stuck this landing is going to, it's going to have a direct implications about how quickly we end up going to the moon. So we'll see where that goes. Kind of pretty cool stuff. But in more important news, which I think is more up in Sean's alley, anyways, is that Pennsylvania, right, voted the PA House Liquor Control Committee voted 23-0 to basically continue the takeout cocktail tip. Right. So now the question is, Sean, are you behind this legislation, even though it's Republican backed legislation?
I have not ordered any cocktails to go since the pandemic has started. I mean, why the fuck not? Like, what's the point of like? I mean, I don't think this is a big pressing issue. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I just thought it was fun. It's like John Mysick did a big piece on this, and it was actually really, really well written. It was like fun to read, right?
Oh, I'm sure he was having a fun time with it. Like,
yeah. He had.
I mean, it was actually like pretty funny a couple of years ago with the change in the PA liquor laws that happened. Like, no one knew what the fuck was in it. Like, we did this massive overhaul of the liquor code a couple of years ago. They allowed beer and wine in supermarkets, which is like what a majority of the people wanted, right? And there was a ton of other stuff in there that just no one knew about until like things just started happening. One of them was that like you can get those slushies to go from your beer distributor. Mm-hmm. And I remember like walking in one day and that was there, and like the one of the beer distributors around here is owned by uh Tom Mahaffey, who's a Republican in the area.
Uh-huh.
So like his beer distributor had that, like a slushy, like 3 mega slushy machines to go, which is like something that you would see down in like Louisiana and stuff like that.
Well, and Mysick talks about a piece of this in there, and I don't know if this is like written into the legislation or not, but I guess they're supposed to put like a little piece of tape over the top of the straw.
Yeah,
like that's gonna prevent the drinking and driving, which will inevitably happen as a result of that.
oh, like down in Georgia or down in Louisiana, the law is like an open container is considered a straw inside the inside the slushy.
Oh God! Oh my God!
Yeah. So I mean, it's what it is.
It is what it is. Exactly. It's just kind of fun. It's good to know at least there's some things that are a little bit filled of joy that will be.
I'm sure he
over
did like
from
in a
the
nice
pandemic.
tongue-in-cheek type way.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also like one of these things, again, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to make this like a serious thing, but it's it's a little like fun thing, whatever. But we're going to see things like this. I think, that were innovations that happened during the pandemic, a variety of different stuff that are just going to kind of keep on going. And this is kind of one.
Oh, I think Harrisburg, they approved keeping outside dining on the weekends here and closing down 2nd Street and closing down some of the like smaller streets to allow the restaurants to have outdoor seating on like Saturday between 4 and 11.
See, I think that is going to be I hope at least, not just in Harrisburg, but like all across the country for that matter, that is one of the lasting impacts where you have these kind of outdoor spaces that are kind of like opened up for dining and that will continue.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very European
town,
thing.
and like in my town already is like, like there's this new restaurant that opened up. It's called the Ram, right? That we tried it well, I'm not going to go down that track. It's called the Ram, right? And they did a gorgeous job of renovating this old building and everything. I haven't been in it yet because of COVID. But there's an old train station, right? So right next to the Percy train station, there's just kind of like this lot that's just hasn't been used. And so the Ram apparently either rented or bought this lot, right? That's kind of adjacent to the train station and made it this outdoor beer garden, right? And they've got like a permanent food truck that'll be there. They got tables outside, lighting and everything. And it's freaking awesome. And that was a way of kind of like, continue on this stuff, and it's going to be permanent, so this is great. And that's actually going to, now they're talking about even speeding up the renovation of the train station, right? To make that kind of usable space and things. And, there's nothing better in my mind is like, for a community than to have these kind of outdoor spaces of gathering, right? Where, you just kind of walking,
yeah, so you don't get COVID with your QAnon school board members.
Exactly. Well, that was kind of what I was going to close with. It was like, and it's like it's especially important in a place like Percy where you've got freaking like legit nut jobs walking around, thinking that like let's go.
Percy's going to be leading the revolution. It's going to be like the Free Staters moving in New Hampshire.
Yep. Well, listen, I since we were talking, you just kind of dropped that one. Let me put this. This will be my little teaser. I'll talk more about this on Out to Coop Live on Monday. But I believe on next Wednesday, I think we got a plan. It's going to be Wednesday morning. There'll be more details coming out. I'm going to have Cyril Mikolenko is going to come back on, and he and I are going to do a kind of a short show on Wednesday. And he just put out a couple pieces on some of the school board races in Bucks County. So we're going to dig into that a little bit, right? And some of his reporting and kind of touch base what's kind of some of this local happening. So that's coming up. And that's one of the reasons I want to test this other software on Monday on Out to Coop Live to do this phone-in stuff. I just want to see what it looks like, what the interface looks like, and how the audience engagement stuff works. So if you're listening at this point now, if you could tune in on Monday, I'd love for you to be able to, to try it out with me. If you're already a patron, I'm going to be sending this information out on our Patreon stuff. Trying to encourage anybody who's a patron who can make it on Monday just to kind of help me test out some of this stuff. Because as much as Sean and I tested it out just kind of like offline the other day, and it's great in terms of what it does in a video. It's going to change our setup a little bit. What I haven't been able to test yet is the audience engagement stuff. And so there's a link basically you can join as an audience member, which will allow you to kind of chat, like do the live chat. And I think, but they're really iffy on or being able to kind of put this stuff forward. But I think there's actually a way to kind of to call in, so I can switch roles or something like this. So that's going to be Nick. Yeah, that's going to be Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 7 p.m. Eastern time. If you could stop by even for a little bit, love to have some folks to kind of play around with the format with, and kind of leave it open for discussion, that we can take things in ways that you want to go. So I think basically what I have the ability to do, and this is kind of I'll leave it at this for now. So I can have it open for audience members, right? So an audience member can use the chat feature, right? It's not going to be recorded, but I can include it as part of it. But I believe I have the ability, right? So during the show and during the live chat, if somebody said that, hey, I've got something to say, can I come on? That I can change their role so that they'll be able to kind of come up in the regular show. Like I said, I'm trying to, I'm going to rope my son into doing another round of testing tonight to see if we can make it work. But it'd be great to test it out. Anyways, I want to go to Free Will. We got some kind of Free Will's got some great releases coming this weekend. This one I'm really intrigued about. There was a let me tell you what it is first, then I'll tell you my story. Free Will, they got this one. It's called Spruce. It's a barrel-aged saison with spruce tips. And I'll give you their description here. It's a mixed culture saison. Was you got to help me again. Foudre.
Where at?
Foudre.
Fooder.
Okay. It's Fooder fermented and aged in a single wine barrel with freshly picked spruce tips from nearby Bucks County farm in the spring of 2020. They chose new shoots specifically for the project as they lend a magnificently bright and refreshing citrus character as opposed to the more resinous notes associated with mature cuttings. Crisp grapefruit notes abound, followed by subtle lime, tingly pink peppercorn character, 5.9 ABV. They only made 285 bottles. So they're out there. How long they're going to last, I don't know. You could stop by the shop to pick some up, or you can actually order online. You have them delivered to you at freewillbrewing.store, or store.freewill. I'll give you that one in a second. But that looks really, really interesting. There was a brewery that came out in Old Forge, New York, right in the Adirondacks. And they were doing a bunch of brews with like Adirondack pines and things like this that had that they were more on the the resin, the resinous, as they say, character of it. But it had that kind of piney taste to them, but they had a range of them which are really cool. So I'm really looking forward to checking that one out. Second one is called Tentacle. It is a pale ale hopped with EXP 10416. Whatever, experimental hops, I guess. Amarillo and Huel melon. Notes of orange pith, strawberry, hard candies, and lemon curd. Comes in at 6.1 ABV. That's got, I mentioned the guy Kolahari, who's the artist who's been doing some of their cans. It's got some new artwork from him on this. This is one of the Tentacles, one of their new pale ales. And Safe Word, one of my original favorites. It is an Imperial IPA with mangoes and habanero peppers. It is hot, and it is hot, right? Just so know it. It's sweet and juicy mango briefly up front that quickly submits to a dominating heat and serious dosing of habaneros. It is really good. Comes in at 10.2 ABV, but it is hot, and it's like this. You drink it, you're like, oh, that's not bad. You get a little pepper taste. You can taste the smoothness of the mangoes and the sweetness, and then the burn comes. And it really does burn. So if you like the hot stuff and you want to try it out, please do check it out. So there you go. And you can do that at Free Will Brewing. I'll get it at freewillbrewing.store. I believe it's at freewillbrewing.store. You can check that out. But in some other big news, and a newest addition to Sean's lifestyle channel, Sean is turning to wine for his next chapter.
Kinds of different red wines.
So how's that going, Sean? I mean, you've got you're well established in the beer stuff, but the beer stuff, it's a little too, I don't know, proletarian for you. So you moved on to a little whiskey, sampled out the whiskeys, but now you got over into wine. I guess you got to really.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you get paid. No,
yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. So
just trying out some different things,
Sir Kitchen.
Well, I grew up in an Italian household, and I grew up, getting well versed in my red wines and whites. So, but no, just trying some different things. I don't want to be drinking beer all the time, because I feel like I can have a glass of wine and be good, but like, once the beer cracks open, it won't stop flowing. And I'm trying not to have gain 20 pounds this summer from going back to the bar and all. So
Yeah.
look out, branching out.
There you go. There you go. Very good.
Cutting back my barbell.
I'm going to be waiting for the pictures are going to show up with like your like face with your nose in a glass, right?
No, that's not going to happen.
You're like
I don't have any wine glasses at all. So like I've been drinking out of like a rocks glass, just like, so like, I will be getting some wine glasses soon, or maybe just having like one on hand. But no, I've been cooking with different wines lately and all. So
very good. I've just been grilling like crazy. That's all I've been. Every time I get a halfway, I'm gonna have burgers today. Or actually, I have to say, we've gone. I think maybe we had burgers once, but we've been doing the whole Beyond Beef stuff for burgers. Right, my kids love them. I mean, my son really asked for them. He's like, "Wait, are we having Beyond Beef, or are we gonna have like real hamburger?" I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna do Beyond Beef tonight." He's like, "Yes!" Right. My wife likes them better, and I'm like, "This is awesome." So we're actually doing Beyond Beef burgers on the grill tonight, which I'm very excited about. So that's where I'm gonna go. But my goal for the summer is to up my fish taco game. Right, I've got a good baseline recipe. I'm going to do that. I'm also going to be working with some fish chowders this summer. I've been dying to experiment. I've got all these things planned for like once I finish my grading for the year. So I should probably actually shut up right now and get off this call so that I can go do my grading then. Right? So crazy. But what else you got going on, Sean? You got anything else going on for the weekend?
No, nothing too much. Just going to be staying in. I think the weather's going to be shitty, so. Not a whole lot.
Yeah, that's why I got to get my grilling in today. So it's going to be nice.
Yeah. So I'm surprised the rain's been holding off here in Harrisburg. It's supposed to rain today, but it hasn't started yet.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get out and mow my lawn today too as well, because it's I'm going to have that. All the things to do. All the places we'll go. All right. Well, hey, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time. I want to remind you, if you haven't already, we've got the link in our for our Discord channel, which will be up on our site. Which will be in the description of the show for today. We put it in the chat on YouTube today. And as a habit, what I'm going to try to do with the Discord channel, just so you know, is it'll be up as a live chat during the show. I mean, you could always use, as people have been doing today, you can always hop on and kind of just chat right in the in YouTube, which is great. That's awesome. I'm always monitoring that. But what we'll do with the Discord is that we'll kind of leave it open after the show, right? So people still want to talk, and it's also a way of kind of building out to the community. We've had just some great folks that have been coming on the show, great comments, kind of discussions, and so it's a way of just I don't know, creating that community space. And I was thinking about this, Sean. I was going back over I just kind of old stuff that we were doing, and I was remembering the PA Progressive Summit in Harrisburg, and how we'd have the get-togethers. We'd do that thing on the Friday night where we just kind of invite anybody who's Raging Chicken fans to kind of hang out at what was that place called? Mike's or Michael's or something like that. Remember that bar with all the craft beers on tap, and we used to get the table in the back.
Where at?
The PA Progressive Summit in Harrisburg, downtown Harrisburg.
Oh, I know what it is. Anthony's. Yeah. And it was just kind of this nice thing. It was because we were there every single year. We were in Harrisburg. We'd have tables in Harrisburg during the PA Progressive Summit, and then we just kind of reserve a table in Anthony's and invite anybody from the Raging Chicken community to kind of come by. And then a couple of years we did kind of had like a little holiday party, and I've been playing around a little bit with doing like a summertime cookout or something like this. Just I don't know, finding some way to kind of build more connections or kind of get a chance to gather outside of the media space as part of the community. And my son's a big gamer, and he's been encouraging me for a while to check out Discord, and I've seen how his friends have been interacting in there. I said, this might be kind of a cool way just to kind of build that community. The nice thing about it too as well is I don't need to be online for people to be part of the Discord, right? So if you got people within the community who want to share stuff about what's going on, want to kind of comment, kind of connect up with each other, follow up on conversations that happen during the show, people would do that kind of as part of this as part of the community. So that's pretty cool. So anyways, anything else for the good of the order today, Sean? No, nothing too much. Sorry, I'm just going back and forth with someone right now.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's fine. All right, well, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We want to remind you that if you're still on YouTube, still listening to the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit like this stream, and make sure that you hit that notification bell so you know every time you go live, and share it with your friends. That's how we kind of get this, get the word out. That's how we kind of grow our audience. That's how we make sure that the people that we bring on the show, the issues that we discuss here, kind of get that broad audience. I want to remind you too that you can help support the show financially, right, by going to patreon.com/rcpress and you become a patron today. That's all we got for today. And so this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. I appreciate you taking the time, little time out of your day, to spend it with us. And have yourself a good week. I know it's going to be rainy in a lot of parts of the state, but here's to it, and here's to the fights ahead. And as long as we're doing it together, it sounds like a good thing. See ya!